Welcome into the FSU men's basketball roundtable discussion. I'm Irish Schofel, managing editor of Warchant.com, and I'm joined today by four former FSU men's basketball players. Guys, I feel like we could go to Leach tonight. I could set some screens. I'm not getting back on defense, but
we would need a lot of Ben Gay and Ice Hot. We're going to do that, Ira.
So here we'll go clockwise from top left in your screen. Adrian Crawford played at FSU from 1997 to 2001. Blake Miles to the right, 1987 to 1990. Below him, Byron Wells, 88 to 93. And then batting cleanup, Ron Miller, 1988 to 92. These three guys, the last three guys I mentioned, played together during their time at FSU. We got the young buck up in the top left. Adrian came along a little bit longer. But we're going to talk about FSU basketball, kind of the state of the program a little bit, where things are as Leonard Hamilton's tenure ends, going into the Loucks era, and where things need to go in the future. So it should be a fun conversation, and thanks for you guys for joining us. I just want to start off with kind of reflecting a little bit. We don't talk too much about it, because we've all talked about Coach Hamilton. But where do you think FSU men's basketball is right now? And I guess maybe Adrian, if you want to start off, you've been very close to the program. Coach Hamilton had tremendous success, 23 years. The program was rocking and rolling a few years ago. The last few years, they have not made the tournament, but they are starting into a new era here. Like, what's the perception of Florida State men's basketball right now? Where would you say the state of the program is now as we kind of transition from Leonard Hamilton's tenure to Luke Loucks?
Yeah, I think that Florida State's brand is incredibly healthy. I think that as this transfer portal and things have started to happen, a lot of people want to wear the garnet and gold. I mean, I think that, they have parents who, used to play, Bill Walsh college football, and we could play with Charlie Ward, right? Or, there was just that era of, when these guys were playing and getting to the, around the idea of the Elite Eight. So the brand of Florida State's healthy. Now, with that, I think we have an incredible opportunity that's in front of us right now. I think people are really excited with Luke Loucks. Again, a lot of, with this kind of Florida State, kind of, and Michael Alford taking the risk of hiring an NBA guy. But I think this is where the game's actually going. And so I think there's a lot of people excited about that, because I think this is going to be a hub and a place where if you really want to learn how to be a pro, then this is the place to be, because they're going to play a pro style offense. They're going to have multiple former NBA coaches on staff. And so I think that this is going to be a great place. So I think it's in a really great place to take that next step.
Where were you guys? Just, and again, like with all respect to Coach Hamilton, but it felt like, the last year or so, it felt like his tenure was kind of winding down. You other guys, just kind of, what were your thoughts about the program, and what were you looking for when Coach Hamilton finally did step down?
Well, I can start off. I'll jump in real quick. But what I think you stated it correctly, Ira. I think you could tell things were winding down a little bit with Coach Ham, and obviously all respect to Coach Ham, an incredible man, incredible coach. We could speak on him all day, but I think things were winding down, and I think we were all looking for what the transition was going to be, which direction we were going to go, and how we're going to deal with the NIL and all the new landscape of college basketball. So for me personally, it was like, where we go from here. And I think hiring Luke with the NBA background and all that is the right direction to go. And I think it's gotten everyone really excited about it.
Yeah, well said, Byron. In life, I like to think about where I've been, where I am today, and where I'm going. And so in relation to the program, 23 years here, incredible what Coach Ham did. I never thought we could really compete in the top 3 or 4 in the ACC consistently. And he proved that we could as a school, as a coach. And so I think that's an incredible accomplishment. We all know that. And, where we've been is obviously, I think today with just the NIL and all the things that we'll talk about here in just a moment in regards to recruiting. And Blake and I were talking about this when we were talking about the potential coaches that could be hired. Of course, one of them was Sam Cassell, my former teammate. So I was very interested in that, but he's a year younger than me. And that to say, I do think it's a young man's coaching game now, and I think just, you could see kind of just over the last 2 or 3 years, mean, the state of our program was we were middle of the pack ACC, not NCAA tournament, and starting to, even maybe dip a little bit below that. So I think it was a perfect time for change. Bringing in Luke, I think he was the right hire. A younger guy with a lot of energy, a lot of NBA experience, and Blake can speak to this more than I can because Blake has a closer relationship and he actually worked for Blake. But just a high IQ and kind of understanding not only the college game, but the NBA game and how to make that transition. I just think it was the perfect hire. And I think there's a lot of excitement about that hire in the future of FSU men's basketball. So I think we're in a good place right now.
Yeah,
Blake, you want to follow?
Yeah, just to add on to that, I agree with what everyone's saying here. In terms of where we are as a program, I mean, obviously Coach Ham had a lot of success. We're not that far removed from that shortened COVID season where we had all those NBA stars, where we had a legit, opportunity and chance to win a title. That team could have gone very far in the tournament. And so, look, and Luke mentioned this in his presser, right? He talked about the collective group of NBA players, what the aggregate salaries are there in the NBA. So we've had a lot of success here. We've won some ACC championships, played in some NCAA tournaments. So even though it's been down the last few years, towards the end of any head coach, and the elephant in the room is Coach Ham's age, right? You get to that point where you're older and people know you're all kind of on your way out, and the recruiting maybe is not as good as it has been in the past. And so, but Luke's picking it up at a great time. Love his energy. He's going to be a great leader. He's going to work really hard, and he's going to build this team the right way. So really excited to see what we're going to do in the future.
Before we started recording, we were just kind of shooting the bull a little bit. And Byron, you were talking about just the evolution of the game, watching some of these teams now that just shoot. They come out, walking in the gym, they're shooting 3-pointers from wherever they could be on the court. It's what I guess Steph Curry did, really. And some of those guys have changed the game, Kevin Durant and those guys. If you guys could talk about that a little bit, like as you when you guys were playing, maybe not as much when Adrian was playing, but, it was kind of like, pound the ball inside. And I know Luke still wants to do some of that, but, as you see the evolution of basketball, how excited from that standpoint are you to, see what Luke can do when he brings in the analytics and some of those things?
Oh, absolutely. Adrian never saw a 3-pointer he didn't like. He would fit perfectly in this day and age. He was never not open. And you watch games these days, that's kind of how you feel. We were just talking about the Alabama game that was just on TV here a little while ago. They had 12 3-pointers in the first half, and there was 4 or 5 minutes to go in the half. Bring that NBA style of play, spread the floor, shoot the 3, pick up pace, tempo, all the things Luke talked. We've heard Luke talk about bringing what he might be able to transition from the NBA to college. As a fan, I'm looking forward to watching it. I'm looking forward to seeing the type of players he brings in, the different style. That's one thing about change is whenever there's change, it comes with hope and excitement because you're looking forward to see what could be there. So I think that's a big deal, him coming in and he's going to bring that style of play. I think it'll attract recruits and attract people to watch, which really what it comes down to. Adrian,
how kind of this process is, it feels like it's changed quickly, but it's been coming for a while, right? How different is the game even from when you were playing to what it is now?
Apologize. But there we go. I was just trying to, there we go. I was, but what I was saying is I was floored. I go back and watch some of our games. I was floored how we used to score. You know what I mean? There's like, 2 bigs, high, low. I'm like, dude, there's like no driving lanes. You know what I mean? I'm like, for like me and Ron being guards, even like Byron and Blake, the guys were stretch guys who could shoot. It's like I feel like I came along way too early, into the career because I love how they play now. They pace space. It really started to evolve with, I think, when LeBron James went to the Miami Heat and it kind of became a little bit positionless, right? And it became a little bit more positionless basketball. And then from there with Steph Curry, and I don't know what's happening. The evolution of Steph Curry is going. And as Steph Curry continues to keep getting better, everybody now does that. Now, again, I think there's places that has to take place with that. Some guys are shooting a lot of threes. I saw the other day, it was the Charlotte Hornets played, I think, the Bulls. And I think there were 65 threes shot. and they shot 20%. I'm like, all right, there's some people where you're like, nah, y'all don't need to shoot threes. You just need to drive the ball, right? You need to develop a mid range. So it's been evolving, but I love kind of the process of it.
Well, and just following up with that real quick, Adrian, because you've trained basketball players recently and things like that. How everybody now, if everybody's trying to go that way, or most teams are trying to go that way, you don't have to be a genius to see which players are going to be in demand. Like how competitive now, especially with the transfer portal and access to players. Is everybody kind of going after the same dudes, or can you still find diamonds in the rough and things like that?
Yeah, there are a lot of things that are going on. I mean, there are a lot of people in the portal right now. I mean, but you are looking for things. I mean, the first thing that you're looking at, as we try to unpack all this stuff, you're diving in, you're looking okay, how many threes per game did they take? What's their 3-point percentage right now, right? I mean, again, there are people like very few guys, unless you're a 5 or you're a really, really dynamic point guard. I mean, if we're pulling up and we're going through your analytics and you're like a 19 or 21% 3-point shooter, then it's probably a chance that we're going to move on from that, because guys have got to be able to shoot the basketball in today's game. And so, but there are a lot of guys who actually can shoot the basketball game, shoot the ball in today's game. And so, I mean, you'll find a lot, but I think the biggest thing is you got to find the right fit for you, because you can't have all shooters and guys who can't defend. And so can you find guys who can do that, shoot and defend? Can you find a 3-and-D guy? So there's a lot. I mean, you saw it I don't know how many is in there now, but I think as of yesterday, there was over 1,100 people that hit the portal already. And so like there's some players in there, but I've been around watching some of the stuff with the staff. And let me just tell you, there's also a lot of bad basketball too. I mean, there's a lot of bad basketball. So, I mean, so you really got to know what you're doing, because you can mess around and grab somebody who shot 47%, but they're not really good at all. So, yeah, so it's players there.
Ron, I was going to ask you, man, like, I feel like, you're at the games all the time. You're close to a lot of the players, the things through your ministry and everything. You've been around the program, but you seem a little, I feel like you're kind of an old school kind of guy.
Thank you.
But
you're reading my mind, sir.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, like, just is it hard? Is it hard for you to watch the way?
Here? Yes, and yes. I hate modern day basketball. I loved 80s basketball unapologetically, like 80s music. And I missed when clothesline fouls were 2-shot fouls, And but I do love the fact as a shooter that the game has opened up and you can shoot more. I mean, 3-point line, and we were still kind of experimenting with it, when we were coming into college and stuff like that. I never had it in high school. I never had a 3-point line in high school. So I love the fact that it's brought more shooting to the game, but I don't like the quality of shooting that I see in the game. When we shot, we weren't allowed to miss that many shots. It just, you wouldn't even have been on scholarship. And so I love what Adrian said. I've never heard that 3-and-D. I like that. I like things that rhyme as a preacher minister, so you can remember, but the 3-and-D. And, just kind of, I felt like our teams were very good defensively over the years, but obviously not the greatest of shooting teams. And, as a former player, I always felt like the easiest thing, well, let me say this, the hardest skill to teach once you get to college, I think, is shooting. And so I would recruit shooters and teach them all the other skills. And so I think Luke's going to go that route, is get more shooters, more scorers, and then be able to develop them, as Blake's talked about, and teach them the defense and all of that. So I'm forward to the style of play that I think Luke's going to bring to FSU. And, playing for Coach Ham, I think he's going to bring a lot of good qualities that Coach Hamilton taught him as a coach. But, as a player, he was able to take what Coach Hamilton was trying to implement on the court and then improvise off of that. And then as the point guard, kind of help his team, work within a concept, but also have freedom in that to play in such a way to adjust to the game and win. I think Luke's got a great mind as a player and, of course, as a coach to just implement a new style for us that I think we'll see more efficient on the offensive side of the ball.
since you guys all live in Tallahassee, you guys were able to watch. I think y'all were still. Everybody was still living here when Luke was playing. So you guys saw him as a player, but Blake, as Ron mentioned earlier, Blake, you actually hired him at one point when he was younger. What was that experience like? What impressed you about him back then?
Yeah, and before I answer that, just one thing to point out: the reason why Ron likes '80s basketball, Ira, is because he didn't have to play defense in the '80s, and we didn't play a lot of defense. So today's game, Ron would have to play defense, and so that would be the struggle.
Listen, all that matters is at the end of the day who has the most points on the scoreboard, right? So, I mean, what's defense?
That was a fun era to play basketball in. Yeah, so Luke ended up working for me. I owned a medical device company called Tomahawk Medical, and Luke, I got to know him when he was in school playing here. And after he was done, got an opportunity to hire him to bring him in. And what was really unique about, hiring Luke, certainly loved him when he was a player, and all the things you saw on the basketball court in terms of leadership, high IQ, just a great teammate. It just made him a great employee. He was someone that, medical device sales is not easy. It's hard to get into, number one, and it takes a while to learn the verbiage and to kind of pick up on all the things. It's like learning a foreign language if you've never done it. But Luke was able to come in quickly and learn it so fast. We were so impressed with how quickly he just acclimated to the job. Everyone loved him. We worked with hundreds of distributors across the country, probably close to 1,000 sales reps. So he was, thrown right into the fire and was able to do a great job. And we liked him so much that I wanted to make him a partner in the business. And in the very end, he came and sat down with us. He and Stevie, his wife, who we're close with, she's a number one, just a great family, just phenomenal. His kids, his wife, and they sat down with my wife and myself and said, "Hey, Luke described how he still had an urge to go play basketball, and it was hard. And I didn't want to lose him, but I knew that he had that urge to still go play. And I said, you need to go, scratch that itch. You don't want to get down the road later in life and have any regrets. You're still young, you're still healthy." And he did. And so he went back into Europe and played again. And ultimately he ended up getting injured, had, surgery over there in Germany. And then kind of as his body was given out, his mind was still, excited about basketball. And that's kind of what led him into coaching. So it's really cool for me because I'm just, so close to Luke and, love that family so much, and just so, just thrilled to have him here. People don't, and I think for our fans that don't know him and maybe question the hire, I can tell you all of us here that on this roundtable, think it was a great hire. Love Luke as a person, as a coach. Think he's going to do great things. And I just think as long as we can support him and our fans can support financially and show up to the games, I think he's going to do a great job.
I'm going to go back to Adrian real quick, and then I'm going to come to you, Byron. Adrian, you talked about just the advancements in the game. And I think one of the things, just talking to you and Blake, one of the things you guys are excited about with Luke is, the access to, the latest technology and how the game is more, just like baseball's now it's analytics, and football, people are going to analytics, basketball is as well. What can you guys tell us about, how that helps? What kind of information, what kind of edges, embracing that technology have you guys seen, or do you guys expect to see?
Yeah, I think that what it allows you to do, it allows you to be more efficient. I think that when you're playing, back in the day, it was like, you had to have a great feel. A lot of times it was the eye of what people would see. But now what you can do is there's so many data points that you can see what's efficient, what's not. It's like very effective companies and businesses, they're very focused on the data because they tell a story. And it's the same thing. That's why if you think about like post-ups, for example, what we're starting to learn, like unless you got like Shaq or just somebody like post-ups aren't a high efficiency shot when you just look at the numbers of it, right? But threes and finishes at the rim are the most efficient. And so I think that it helps you be more efficient. It also helps you understand the players you have, because then you can determine, like, man, what are the dynamics? What lineups work the best together? What lineups don't work the best together? And so I think it allowed you to be at prime, optimization as a basketball team. It also allows you, as you begin to get more data points, you can begin to realize what type of players work best for you. So, you can begin to look at, like, man, you really think about our Florida State teams are really good. We were going to have big guards, and we're going to have 6'6" to 6'9" wing players, athleticism on rim. And then Coach Ham, I always do a joke, Coach Ham had the Congo Connect on speed dial, you know what I'm saying? So we have like 2 or 3 Africans in there blocking shots. And it's like, and it was just what it was, and that, but you know what, now, that was by our eye, but what you could do is now get the analytics to say, oh, we were the most effective when we had these type of players. And so then when you get in the portal, things like that, you can recruit according to that. So it allows your system to be more effective.
Byron, when you look at the landscape of college basketball now, and we've talked sometimes off the air just about just wondering how much guys are making now, and in just this world, is it I guess when you guys look at Florida State, and I'll start with you, Byron, like, do you feel like Florida State can compete? Because I think a lot of fans are concerned about the idea that, man, some of these schools are going to spend so much money on basketball. Does that concern you, just as somebody who's a supporter of the program?
Oh, absolutely. I think you have to be concerned with that. That you're not really looking at things realistically if you're not being concerned with that. Obviously, a program like Duke, Kansas, Kentucky, you're talking the Blue Bloods will outspend us. I mean, I don't know this. I don't know this for a fact for certain, but I'm sure their basketball budget is probably more than Florida State. Just like our football budget is probably more than their football budget. It just kind of makes common sense. So you're right. As a fan, you're concerned about that. But the end of the day that's the new system. That's the new life of basketball. As a fan, I want Florida State to do well, and I want to support them as much as I can to do well. It's important. I feel the importance of my allegiance to the school is important. I'm proud to be a Seminole, and I'm proud to watch our players play. But yes, it is concerning. It's also such a gray area. We really don't know for certain who's spending what's spending on who. So, maybe we'll find out what Florida State has a budget, whatever it is, compared to someone else. But I think the reality of it is, we're not going to go after probably the same type of players that a Duke or a Kentucky, which can afford probably anything they want. We're going to have to be, and that's where I think getting Luke in here is great, because, like AC and Blake have talked about the analytics, getting the right people sometimes is more important than getting the most expensive person. We just talked beforehand, Rutgers signed two of the top 3 players in the country. And I think they were 500 at best this year. I don't know what that cost them. But so you have to have the right people as well. You have to use the money wisely. And that's one thing I think Luke talked about in his presser. He did that every day in the pros. Salary cap, releasing people, salaries, figuring out who plays who. I think in that regards, it's a good to bring him in that he's, acclimated to this type of environment. But yes, as a supporter, it's concerning because it's an unknown. Like any unknown is always kind of scary. So as a supporter, it is what it is. And all I can do is support my team as much as I can. That's all you can do.
Blake, you seem like energized by all this. Like you seem to I think Ron doesn't love some things about the new age of basketball. You seem to be like fired up about just, I don't know, what is it? What is it? Just a new start? Just your confidence in Luke? What is it that, you seem very fired up about what they can do?
Yeah. Again, just knowing him, knowing the person, the drive, the desire to win, his competitiveness. I know we're in great hands. I got to go visit him when he was coaching for Sacramento in the NBA Summer League, watching him coach that team, how those players responded to him. He's just so highly intelligent, and he's going to get the right players here, that fit his style, his system. He mentioned in the press conference, the character, right? It's going to start there, showing up, being on time, working hard, being a great teammate. And that's not just coach speak. I mean, he is going to get high character guys, and they're going to play hard. He's going to hold them accountable, but he's going to be a player's coach. But I just see the vision. During this whole process when he was going through the interview process with Mike Alford and the rest of the team there, I got to spend some time. I've been a mentor, for him because we worked obviously he worked for me and with me. So I got to really understand his vision and his plan in detail of what he's going to do and how he's going to do it. And that's what I'm most excited about. And even though we don't have the same budget, like Byron mentioned with some of those schools, and it is important that we give more money to basketball, to the program. Luke is still going to do a great job. He understands the analytics. When AC was talking about the AI, right, and the machine learning, I got to sit with Coach Loucks the other day in the office and go through and see that in action with the assistant coaches, and really interesting in terms of how you have a set budget of what you are able to spend, and you can essentially put a team of 12 players up, for example, and slot them based on what those NIL dollars might be. And you can look at all the analytics, offensive efficiency, defensive efficiency, and it will tell you things like how many points this team would average a game, what the defense would look like in terms of holding the opponent to X amount of points per game. It would even give you percentages or likelihoods of making the NCAA tournament, winning the ACC. But all these advanced algorithms and metrics, he understands it. Golden State was one of the teams that used it early and often in the NBA. They're well known to have some advanced analytics compared to other teams in the NBA. So Luke's been around that and he understands it, and he's going to utilize that. And his pitch is going to be really simple. He'll be able to tell a young man, hey, you might be able to go get $600,000 a year at Louisville or Duke, but you can come here for less. But I'm going to prepare you. Because Luke, he helped with scouting and development. He knows all the general managers of all the NBA teams. He knows how to prepare you for the NBA, and he knows also his pitches when you get there. How do you stay? How do you get that second or third contract where it's hundreds of millions of dollars? So ultimately, the kid will end up making more money if you come in and you want to be coached hard and you want to be developed. Florida State is going to be a school that is, make no mistake, we were going to develop young men to go to the NBA or play professionally overseas. And so that's what I'm excited about, is just his vision and his passion.
I know Adrian's going to have to check out here in a couple minutes. one thing real quick on that note, we are going to have some information at the end about how people can donate to help, Luke's Coaches Club. And if you want to support the program, there's actually a QR code that we'll put up on the screen. And I'll give you guys a couple links as well, where you can go and if you want to financially support Luke Loucks and FSU basketball, you can do that through their Coaches Club. And he has control of that money and how it's used, and everything from from managing the team to recruiting to everything. So we'll put that information up here at the end. I want to ask you guys one real quick question that just came to me. It was not on my planned outline, but since I have you guys together, I got to ask: who was the best non-basketball player hooping when you were at Florida State, like football or baseball, or who was somebody that could actually play with you guys when you guys were at Florida State?
I'm going to say for us, it was Tommy Pauly.
Oh,
so TP, I played against TP in high school. He played for ball. He's out of Baltimore, Dunbar. I played at Charm City, and so Tommy Pauly, because he could actually hoop, and he was 6'4", 6'5", football body, strong, great lateral speed. I'm like, dude, it's like guarding you. It's like putting you in hell, because it's like you can't get by him because he's strong. He's got quick feet. He's got the whole thing. He's physical. So no, it was. I mean, TP was a guy who actually I thought if TP would have played with us, like he actually could have helped us. I mean, I think he had that. Yeah. So Tommy Pauly for me.
Yeah, we played with him in the summer league. Ron and Blake, I don't know if you remember, TP played with us in the summers. We used to play over Walker Ford, and he played with us summers, and he absolutely could play.
Yeah, we also played with Amp Lee. Amp was a really good basketball player.
E.G. Green was really good. E.G. Green was a good one too. Well, it's tough. That's a tough question. It's a really tough question.
Oh, Kevin Knox. Yeah.
It was funny because, when we were playing, I mean, FSU football was so good, right? So those guys would come in after practice and, kind of play around with this and stuff like that. We're like, thank God they chose basketball. We wouldn't have scholarship. We wouldn't be on scholarship anymore.
I remember I was
those guys.
playing against one day, Bruce Lassane. If you guys remember Bruce,
all the receivers were incredible.
Man, he was a scary good athlete and like tough, physical. I remember playing against him in back in the day where I was scared this guy was going to hurt me. He was just really, really good. And, Deion Sanders, of course, Leroy Butler, Edgar Bennett, Lawrence Dawsey, all those guys were really, really good players.
Yeah. One guy who actually shocked me, I don't know, remember Sharon Dorsey? We played big offensive lineman, Big Red. Like, man, he had Big Red had a feathery touch. You know what I'm saying? He gets you down there, man. I mean, he getting you left. I mean, he remind me like of Dimitri Hill. He gets you the fade off, the left right hand hook. No, he was actually and he could move. That was always the thing. Like that's what shocked me being here. Transferring from Tulsa and watching these guys. Like Corey Simon. Me and Ron very close to Corey. Like, Corey's like, vertical. Yeah,
Corey Simon was hooping.
Listen, let me tell you, Corey's 6'2",
jump out of the gym,
and he literally came in there one day, and I was like, man, there's no way you can dunk. You know what I'm saying? Like Corey, like his butt's like the size, it's like a freaking like an F-150. So he gets up there, and my man takes off, boom, 2 hands. I'm like, these dudes are just freak athletes, man.
They are. Hey, I got to give a shout out just in case he watches this roundtable to Kurt Carruthers. He was a great Leach rec player in basketball. So just want to he was the king of the Leach Center, not Moore Center, but Leach Center. So
I'm coming back. I've been talking about doing this for years. I'm going to do it at some point. This will be the jumping off. I want to do Legends of Leach and have a bunch of you guys talk about those games back in the day.
Well, Kurt would be on that for sure on the shirtless teams.
Yeah, well, I was going to say
the no shirt teams.
Kirk Carruthers was one guy. We would work out with the football players back then, and I remember Kirk. Kirk was a guy that would just walk in and do like 3 sets of curls, and would walk out of the gym and he'd look great. It's like how do you do that? And he's awesome.
All right, Adrian, I'm going to try to get you out of here. I'm going to ask you just one kind of a broad picture question because, man, like you're super close to the program. Again, as I touched on earlier, man, people do have concerns, not necessarily about Luke, but just about, the financial resources and the facilities now, and the BTC. We all remember when it was built, and that was, you were still playing, or you were just finishing playing, and so, what as you're out in the community and people ask you, where's FSU basketball going? Like, what do you tell people, and what do you think? Kind of what are some of the priorities do you think for FSU basketball beyond just, hiring a new coach and maybe doing a better job of recruiting?
Yeah, I think that it's a very tricky time because, April 7th, 9th, they're going to, and this will kind of get to April 7th, 9th, I think the House will hopefully pass the bill to where, they'll do revenue sharing. And so right now it's the Wild West because you can front end, these contracts, so there's people like there's some people I know because I work with, I consult with some other basketball programs. And one of the things that you're seeing, there's some people, man, they have like $12 million in their NIL for basketball that they have to spend. So like they just have to spend it. That's not on top of their rev share. So there's some going to have $17 million budgets. There's some with $11 million budgets. You think about this, BYU. Again, it's reported. BYU, AJ DeBance, the number 1 player in the country, got $7 million to go to BYU. They are loading up, and you see them, they're playing Alabama tonight. So it's like, but then you see the other side of Alabama when they went to the Final Four a couple of years back. Alabama's NIL budget was $900,000. And they did what Blake was talking about, man. They got the right analytics. So what does it look like right now? I think it's really the investment helping us continue to get better to produce our NIL and going there. I think the next thing is going to be, honestly, I really do think facilities will be another one. I think there's only so much you can do, like with the BTC. I think it's great. Again, we have a place, but I think you got to continue to keep getting better there. And I think the last thing is going to be, I think from an overall athletic department standpoint, because I think the way the game's going to change, you're able to do marketing. So, you're able to do marketing now or get brand deals. But with those brand deals, from what I know, it's going to run through Deloitte. So, you can't do it to where it's got to be value. And so I think really being able to figure out how do we attack that as a university to really begin to attract national brands to some of these athletes and having very specific. And I think we got to be creative. I think that, we have, you look at these guys all on this, have all been successful in their own right. I think we've got to be able to have different pitches. We may not be able to outspend people, but what we can do is we all can say this. We play basketball here. And even in this city has been very kind to us to where we were able to go and build a professional career. And I think we have to cast vision for those young men of saying, hey, how do we give them other opportunities just beyond basketball to start setting up their future? So I think we've got to become really creative in what we can do, because we're not going to just outspend everybody. And I understand that, but we got to be more creative.
Good stuff. If you got to take off, man, we can.
Yeah, I do. I appreciate you guys, man. Thank you so much.
See
you, man.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll wrap up here pretty soon. We don't need that view. We definitely don't need that view. All right, there you go. That works. So I want to, we'll start finishing up here, but Ron, I want to come back to you and again, as you.
Was this a Larry Bird question?
Hey, it could be. We could do that. Or we could go Jordan or Kobe or
no. Save those for Blake.
Man, when you just again, like when you look at the sport and when you look at Florida State basketball, do you see do you want Florida State to compete at that level in terms of, I know you want Florida State to compete, but do you want Florida State to be one of the schools that's one of the top spenders, or do you think kind of that, is there a path to success where, maybe you're not paying top dollar, but you're still putting together a great program?
I think what you just said there at the end is so true. I don't know if we'll ever be a basketball program that can pay top dollar. But I do believe, and this is why I think Luke was just such a genius hire, is that I think Luke's going to have just an incredible ability. I think he's uniquely equipped and prepared to take what it is that is going to be handed to him in the finances and then build a culture around that. And I think he's going to be very successful and win. And I think he's going to be able to draw in just the quality players that want to be, obviously, money talks, and there's never been a truer scripture. It is a root of all evil, right? I mean, it changes everything. But I think Luke's going to be able to navigate through this in a very wise way because he's young enough and having the NBA experience. And I think he's going to be able to get the quality enough players around him, but then also get the fill-in players that you need to build the kind of culture on a team that you need to have enduring success versus just constant quick turnover. And I think he's going to be able to build a really consistent team culture here that people are going to really want to be a part of and buy into. And then it's our role to support that. And Blake's talked about, and Byron, and then Adrian, I thought about a great point about, casting the vision of our community and, what it means to be here in Tallahassee. Why are we still here? Why is this our city? As former basketball alumni and stuff like that. But I just think Luke's got just a gift on his life to be able to take the modern day concept of basketball and still build kind of the old school culture around that. I think he's going to be able to do it.
Byron, I was going to go in this direction anyway, so it was perfect. Good work there, Ron. Byron, because we get wrapped up and we talked a lot on this roundtable so far about analytics, technology, the changing game, and we've talked about the money for NIL and all that. But you guys, when you were playing at Florida State, when you guys were playing at Florida State, there were games you guys won maybe against a team that had more talent, or maybe guys who. It seems basketball to me seems like, I always feel like football, if you've got the biggest, strongest football team, man, it's going to be a long day. It's going to be hard to beat just a bigger, stronger, physically football team. But in baseball, if you've got a dominant pitcher on the mound, it's like, man, there's, good luck. But basketball, I've always felt like that is a sport where you can maybe overcome some things.
Yeah.
So as Ron was talking about culture and talking about, tactical decisions and things like that, how in this new era, do you think that that's still going to be feasible? Like just being well coached, being well, disciplined, being good chemistry, good culture. Do you still think that has a role, or are we seeing that even now in the tournament this year?
I think it still has a role. I think it's a little bit harder to do because you're not going to have these guys here for 3-4 years.
Right.
I mean, we can all speak of this. Teams aren't built overnight generally. It takes a couple years. It takes 1, 2, 3 years to build that chemistry, that camaraderie. But that's where it comes back to why we all agree. I think Luke is a great choice because you're going to have to build that culture with new people. Let's just be perfectly honest. We all know this. You're going to have new kids every year that weren't there the year before. You're going to have starters. You're going to have major players. That's just going to be the changing landscape. I think it's still possible. I think it's a difficult. It's going to be more difficult because of the turnover that you're inevitably going to get. It's. When we played, and they can all speak to this, we love Florida State. We were here because it was Florida State. That's why we were here. We weren't here.
Yep.
We weren't getting paid. We were here because we loved the school. We loved the atmosphere. We loved our teammates. Although we're all close. It was something different. That there's no money involved. And like Adrian said, when money gets involved, things happen, good, bad, indifferent, whatever your view of it is. But I think it can. It's just going to be a little difficult. But I think that's part of the good change we have here is we need to have someone who can manage that and get the right kids here. It all comes about getting the right kids, because you're absolutely right. A well-schooled together team can beat a more talented team.
Yeah.
It can happen in basketball. It's not just physical. A well-schooled, put together, playing together team can beat a better talented team. We see it all the time. The teams with the one and dones would lose to the senior laden mid-major school. It can happen. I just think it's a little bit harder. It made it a little harder, but I think we got the right guy to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I got one more question for you, Blake. And real quick before that, I just want to give out the so we'll put up the QR code again. Again, this is if you donate, if you go to this QR code, go to your, you pull out your phone, take a picture of this QR code. You can watch the replay and pause it on it if you need to get the QR code. And use your camera. It'll take you to basically it's a page for Luke Loucks fundraising his coaches club, and so they are trying to raise as much money there that he can use for recruiting in other areas of the program. So again, I'm not doing this for Luke, but it's part of what you guys are hoping to do with this. Just spreading the word about him. If you also the URL for anybody who just wants to type in the URL, if you don't want to do the QR code. It's just the normal https://app.seminoles.com/Luke Loucks, LUKELUCKS. That's where the QR code takes you to, and then there's options there for if you want to donate to Luke and help support the program. Blake, you've been like you said, you've been around this now a little bit more because of your relationship with Luke. Are you blown away by the numbers you're hearing about players and NIL and I guess as you see that, is it more daunting or do you still why do you believe Florida State which football, it's still football's number one at Florida State? How daunting is it as you start hearing what's out there and what do you think Florida State's chances are to quickly be competitive?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a dilemma. It is difficult, but it's something that Luke is going to manage. The staff is going to manage it. I was talking with Luke the other day about this, and there's a specific school, and I'll just say in the state of Texas, and he was talking with a coach at this particular school, and a booster had come into the office and was asking why this particular team didn't finish higher in the conference because they'd spent a lot of money on the roster this past year. And the coach said we just didn't have, an NBA level point guard and two guard, and they underperformed. And so the booster asked, well, what will it take to get the best player in the country? And as I think Byron and AC mentioned earlier, that kid's going to BYU, and we did hear the $7 million contract for that individual.
Unbelievable,
unbelievable, but that's true. And so in this situation, the coach said, well, to get, a top 5 point guard or two guard, it's $1.5 million is kind of the going rate. So that particular booster pulled out his checkbook and wrote a check for $3 million and handed it to the coach and said, go get those two guys. So that's the reality of where we're at and what we're up against, and why it is so important for all of us to get, whether it's financially or not. But we have to have the money behind the program. You know, we're building it. Luke has done a great job of fundraising, talking with some of our boosters, and our boosters have stepped up. I know several of them personally that have committed dollars, and that really helps. And I think, you know, in terms of how Luke is going to build this roster, I talked a lot too about this in terms of strategy, right? And so, you know, you think in terms of having like 2 NBA level players, whether it's probably a guard and a big, and you think of the action of kind of a screen and roll off the top, where you have a player that can, you know, get to the rim, get downhill, finish, the lob dunk that we see all the time now in college and NBA, spread the court. And you know, off that action, you're going to have shooters, a bunch of Ron Millers and Byron Wells out there that can, you know, knock down threes. And so, you know, building the roster the right way, but you're going to probably be top heavy, right? You're going to spend probably half your budget on 2-3 guys, and then you're going to build the rest around it. So he knows what he's dealing with now, and he's prepared, and the coaching staff is prepared, and I think we're going to get some really good players, and we're going to be competitive, but you know, it's important now because, as Adrian mentioned, it's going to change here soon, right? When the House, when this goes through, the landscape could change dramatically in terms of a cap or collective bargaining. Who knows what's going to come next? But there is a short window right now where we need the money, because just having a really good competitive team going into this season will hopefully build, you know, give us the momentum as we go forward. But we have the right coach. He understands what he's dealing with. He, you know, playing here, and then of course being close to the program and really close with Coach Ham. You know, that's why I was so excited about Luke in particular, because he's young, he's got the energy and the drive, and he understands it. The analytics, the AI. You know, working with superstars, you're managing egos. You know, you're managing payroll. I mean, he was on a team, think of Golden State. Like, you have 4 Hall of Famers there, and Steph, Clay, Draymond, and Durant. And, you know, and picking his brain and talking about that, as good as those guys were, they played so well together. They played as one unit, one team, and they were there for each other. And basketball it's all about chemistry. We, the 3 of us here, you know, Byron and Ron, we joke like we were the gold team at Florida State when we were there. And these guys will tell you, we beat the starters consistently. In fact, we beat the starters so much that Coach Kennedy would stop the clock in practice and reset the scoreboard. Am I right, guys? Like, it was almost like frustrating to him that, and you know, we're not all 5-star All-Americans. I mean, we were highly recruited players, but the point being, we were basketball players. We could put the ball in the basket. We could dribble, shoot, pass. We were very skilled, and that's what got us to Division I basketball. And we could all contribute at that level. So there are a lot of guys like us that our fans don't know the names of these players, you know, coming from these mid-major schools. But there's a lot of great players in the JUCO ranks, again, all over the country, that are just looking for an opportunity to come here and play. So I'm excited to see what we do and where it goes. But I have a lot of confidence in this coaching staff.
Last thing before I let you guys go, and real quick, I guess you guys we're just calling Brad Johnson. We're just counting him as a basketball player. That's why you guys didn't count him and include him in your.
Yes, yeah, okay. Absolutely. Yes.
Obviously, Charlie was, but the last thing, and Luke touched on this when we spoke to him the other day about you know, he is asking for financial support, but he also is just asking for people to come to the games, and that's one thing that I feel like, you know, I remember talking to Leonard Hamilton when he came to Florida State. He got here the same year I got here, and he talked about, I asked him about marketing and getting out in the community and, you know, reaching the students. And his feeling at the time was, and I think it was pretty much always his feeling, that was, if you're successful, people will come. And that proved to be true. You know, when he got that team going and they were winning in the ACC, or, you know, sending guys to the league, the Tucker Center would be packed out for big games. What do you think? Do you want to see more community outreach? Because, like, you know, Ron was saying, we're all part of this community. You guys are very, you know, well-known people in this community. Do you think there's going to be more of that going on going forward?
Yeah, I hope so. I know that's something that's very passionate in Blake's heart, and Blake's talked to me about it. You know, so many times, I mean, even as a former player, you know, we would have weekday games. I didn't know we had a game in town, you know, and So how do we improve that? I think there's better ways that guys like us in the community can get involved and then help spread the word of what's going on and just connect the community into it. So I think there is a lot of room for improvement there, and I think that'll make a big difference in seeing the support for the program.
Because the students seem like the students seem like they're coming out now. And even this team wasn't great for the most part. I feel like if we could just fill the rest of the lower bowl and some of the upper bowl sometimes. I know it's people that live out of town and buy tickets and all that, but are you starting to sense any excitement? Just kind of a new era. People get excited for change, I guess.
No, I think it's human nature. Like, and you're right. The students, shout out to the students. They did show up this year. Shout out to them. They're always fantastic. Playing for the students. When you play here, half of it's for the student. You're playing for the students and your fellow, you students that you see every day. But no, you're right. Human nature. It's changed. I think everyone's excited about it. And I think it's important for us to keep spreading the word. Us three here in the community, you're here in the community. We're always talking to people and letting people know. But I think just naturally everyone will be a lot more excited. And just like Ron said, I think we do have room for improvement the way we market the team, present the team, have the team out in the community. There probably is room for improvement. But there's definitely a sense of excitement. I feel it coming with the change.
Blake, I'll give you the last word. Anything you want to send us home with here on the our FSU basketball roundtable?
Well, first, thanks for doing this, Ira, and having us on. This is a lot of fun for us.
Yeah, thank you.
And I think you doing this in Warchant community, bringing us on, and hopefully we can do more of this. And talk strategy as we get into the season and as recruiting picks up. It'll be a lot of fun. Hopefully, we can share some things behind the scenes that's going on with the team and recruiting as time goes on. But to the people that subscribe to Warchant or watching this, again, please support the team. Luke and his family are great people. Love Florida State, just like we all do. And if you can't support financially, at least try to come to the games. Be involved with the kids, that come here, or try to just be involved in the program anyway, emotionally, financially, and because it matters a lot. When we were there, we had boosters and fans and people that we got to really know personally. We would go to their homes and they would host us and that those are memories and those are connections that you build. We're just such a unique community here, as Ron mentioned, in Tallahassee. Our fans are some of the best fans in the country in every sport. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, and for us to be here in this community and get to visit with all the fans and the people that have known us over the years and have been so good to us, it's really cool that these young kids are going to get to come here and experience that firsthand. So no, just grateful to be on here with my buddies and you, Ira, and appreciate you putting the word out, and I hope that everyone considers giving to Luke Loucks and the coaches club and supporting the program.
Last thing real quick, Byron, how many times a day do you get asked about the shot against Duke?
It's good. I still run into it. It's getting less and less as the years go by, but I still get it. I still get some questions. I get some comments, but it's starting to get less, trickle down.
Ira, what's so funny was so long ago, people think it was me sometimes, and I don't correct them. I say, yeah, that was me.
There you go. All right, guys. Well, listen, I really do appreciate you guys coming on. And like you said, hopefully we can do this in the future. I know you guys have busy schedules and families and everything else, but I'm sure a lot of people love hearing from you guys, and we'll see where things go. And we'll close it out. Ben will put the QR code back up there for people that want to give to support FSU basketball, this new era. And we'll talk to you guys again soon. Okay. Thanks again.
Yeah, thanks, Ira.
Go Noles.
Go Noles.
Go Noles.